business. Okay, cool. Let's go over here. Business. Okay. All right, everybody, welcome. Let's turn off this echo. Boom. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today in our webinar, we're going to be covering some exciting stuff. Let me go ahead and share my screen properly. Boom. And share this. All right. So today I have a very special topic. It's near and dear to my heart. It's about navigating the SaaS journey from 0 to 10 million ARR. I'm super excited to have you guys here. My promise to you by the end of this presentation, this 45, 50 minutes that we're gonna be spending together is I'm gonna teach you what are the 5 inflection points that SaaS businesses go through on the path to 10 million ARR. And I'm also gonna be talking about 3 secrets, 3 things that you need to know to navigate that path. All right, if you guys are excited to dig in and you can hear me and you can see me, go ahead and hit me with a yes in the chat. That way I know you're with me. And you can see my screen and everything. That way I know you guys are excited to get started. All right, just hit me with a yes in the chat and make sure you smash that like button if you're on YouTube, and we're gonna dig into all of the content I have prepared for you. Cool. All right, so let me keep this open. All right. So everything I'm going to be sharing with you comes from roughly 15 years of me being in SaaS businesses. I've been a founder, I've been a venture-backed CEO, a senior executive across multiple SaaS businesses. So that's where all this comes from. If you're new to Unstoppable, if you're new to our community, welcome. Just a quick background on me. I'm TK. I run Unstoppable. I help SaaS founders navigate the path to the next stage of growth, navigate the path to product market fit. I have some experience in being a SaaS founder. My first SaaS business was called HipCal. I started with some co-founders in college. We sold it to another SaaS business. It was called Plaxo. Then I worked at Bridgewater, one of the largest hedge funds in the world. I worked there for 3.5 years and then got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I love startups. I got to do the startup thing once again and go all in. And so I founded a company called ToutApp. It's backed by Andreessen Horowitz, one of the best VC firms. We grew ToutApp to about 7 million ARR, sold it to a company called Marketo. Marketo was backed by one of the best PE firms in the world, Vista. That was about a $300-something million ARR business. And we did a 2-year transformation. I started on the executive team and we sold it to Adobe for $4.75 billion. So I've been in the SaaS business industry for a while and I love SaaS businesses. I run my YouTube channel, which is probably where you're watching this, unless you're in our webinar. I drop an episode every Sunday, every Wednesday, and every Friday to help you scale your SaaS business. And that's why I also do these live events to go deeper into certain topics. And today I was running a growth workshop recently, and we were talking about the path to 10 million ARR, to go from 0 to 10 million ARR. And what we wanted to talk about today was how do you navigate that path? What are the inflection points that come in, and how does that all come together? So if you're excited to get started, if you guys are excited, like, all right, what are the 5 inflection points? How do we navigate it? Hit me with a yes in the chat. And also, just so I know who you guys are, just tell me what stage you're on. If you're like a pre-founder, if you're just beginning to get the product together, just put pre-founder. If you are at a certain stage of building a SaaS business, then go ahead and just tell me what stage you're in. If you're bootstrapped, if you're seed funded, Series A, put it in the chat, and that way I know where you guys are, and that'll help me kind of make sure I cater the presentation for you guys. Why take some water? Okay, so let me just tell you a little bit around like how I got to starting a SaaS business. All right. I have always loved SaaS businesses. I'm a person that hates inefficiencies. And I wanted to find a way to actually build software that served people, that made their lives better. I've always been about that. That's why I started one in college. So when I came to leaving my corporate job at Bridgewater, and I was like, I want to go start a company. The truth is I didn't start with ToutApp. So on the right over here is what the screenshot of ToutApp, the initial product. What Tout did was it essentially helped you send out cold emails. So if you needed to email someone, if you needed to follow up on a lead, we helped you do that in an automated way. And the truth though is ToutApp wasn't the first idea I started with. Before I actually started ToutApp, I was working on this other thing called Brain Trust. And you can tell from the homepage, like if you just compare, this was Brain Trust and this was ToutApp. Brain Trust had a lot more polish. I put a lot more time into it. The designs were a lot more complex. I had a ton of features. It was very complex. But the reality is Brain Trust never made more than $500. Brain Trust I worked on for nearly a year and a half, and it didn't go anywhere. And because it wasn't going anywhere, I was like, I need to get more users into Brain Trust. Brain Trust was supposed to revolutionize how people collaborate. And I'm like, I know, I need to email people and get them to sign up for the product. If they sign up for the product, then they'll realize that email sucks for group discussions and they'll use Brain Trust. And being the engineer that I am, I didn't want to just manually send emails or send cold emails. So literally over the course of a weekend, I built Tout. Like I copied the homepage, I copied the billing code from Brain Trust into Tout. And I said, you know what? I just want to be able to use this for myself. I want to be able to send emails. I want to customize them as I reach out to people. And I want to get them to sign up for Brain Trust. And don't ask me why, but I was like, since I'm doing this, might as well put a price tag on this. And so I copied everything over, and through the course of a weekend, I created Tout, and I started sending out a bunch of emails to promote Brain Trust. And I was like, I bet other people would like Tout also. So I started sending some emails about Tout. Like at that time, I called it using Tout to Tout, where I sent a bunch of emails telling people like, hey, I built this thing called Tout. You might be interested. If you're sending a lot of emails, we help you send that more efficiently using templates, and you can track what happens to them. And like, you'll never guess what happened. I've been using Brain Trust building Brain Trust for like nearly a year. And I built Tout over a weekend, and I sent a couple of emails, and within a day, you cannot make this stuff up. Within a day, it took off. People started signing up for it. People started swiping their credit card. On day 2, not only were we generating more revenues than Brain Trust ever did, we also got a cease and desist order. We got a cease and desist order from a PR company saying, hey, the original product name was called Pitch. And they were like, hey, you can't use Pitch as your product name. We have a product we're building, and we have like copyright on it. And at that point, I'm like, whatever, man. I'm working on Brain Trust. This Tout thing is a side project. I'll just change the name, this Pitch thing. So literally I went on thesaurus.com and I typed in Pitch, and I tried to find all the words that are synonymous with Pitch that had a domain available, and Tout came up, and ToutApp.com was available, and I bought it, and I just put it out there. So it was insane. Like, on one hand, I was working on this product that was trying to get to product market fit, that I was putting so much effort into. I created this beautiful marketing page. It wasn't going anywhere. But Tout, I like built it and I put it out there, and boom, it just took off. Funny story, it was like 6 months after, or 3 months after I sold Tout to Marketo, I got an email from someone saying, hey, you have the domain pitchapp.com, would you sell it? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I still have that. Yeah, I would sell it. It has some sentimental value to me. And they're like, we'll pay you $1,000. I'm like, listen, I really care about that domain. If you pay me $5,000, I'll sell it to you. And so within 6 months of selling Tout, which is years later, I was also able to sell pitchapp.com for another $5,000. Why do I share this? The reason I share this is because in building the SaaS business, Tout started over the course of a weekend, and it kind of started to click. But even through that, we had to go through a bunch of twists and turns. So Tout went from like writing the same emails over and over, and it's for potential customers, journalists, bloggers. It was like all over the place, had a bunch of features. Even Tout was breaking a bunch of rules. But as I grew that company from this weekend project to 1 million ARR, this is what the homepage looked like when we hit 1 million ARR, to 3 million ARR, this is what the new website when we hit 3 million ARR, to exiting the company to Marketo, which now it still exists today, except it's under Adobe Marketo Engage, and it's called Marketo Sales Connect, and it helps you create more pipeline between sales and marketing. Through all of that, we went through a bunch of inflection points. And I made a bunch of mistakes with Brain Trust, which I adapted for Tout. And even with Tout, I made a bunch of mistakes, but then adapted a lot faster. And in this webinar, I'm going to walk you through the inflection points that you go through as you're building out a SaaS business. And as I was going through my own journey, I realized that in order to navigate these key inflection points, you needed one thing. What you really needed to do, what I learned, was you needed to constantly be focusing on a growth engine instead of just building features and just having customer discovery calls. And even when you're building a growth engine, you had to coalesce into one. So that's what I'm going to be digging more into on today's presentation, on how to navigate all the inflection points that come up and how to navigate this path to 10 million ARR. So if you're with me, hit me with a yes. Do you guys want to like dig more into what the inflection points are? So just put like inflection points in the chat and hit enter. That way I know you're with me. Let me make sure everyone on YouTube is doing well. Okay, we've got some bootstrap founders, some seed founders. We got one Series A. Okay, cool. This is great. All right, so let's go into the actual inflection points. All right, let me dig into this and also get some water. Okay, cool. So essentially, there are certain inflection points that your SaaS business is going to go for. And when I coach people inside of my SaaS school is where I help you go from 0 to 10 million ARR. I constantly help people figure out which inflection point you're after next so you can focus on the right things. So let me just first explain to you what the inflection points are based on the journey that I went through. And then we're going to dig into how do you actually optimize to get to the next inflection point? What's the main thing you want to be focusing on? All right. So the first thing you want to understand is essentially there's a bunch of you that may be on this channel or watching this presentation that are at this inflection point. You may be having a job, you already have a job, or you're a software engineer at a company, or you're thinking about quitting your job, or you just quit your job and you're just like, I need to go build a product. You're right at this inflection point, which is a 0 inflection point, where you're like, I got nothing and I'm trying to get to something. The inflection point that comes after, you're just trying to go from this idea of a product that you have to revenue, this revenue right here. I have a core belief that I teach inside of my program. I don't believe in freemium in the beginning. The reason for that is you don't really know if you have a business or something valuable to offer. So I'm always a fan of like your first inflection point from going from 0 is revenue. If you can get to revenue, that means that you can start to understand, okay, there's something of value here, and you can start to grow it and even offer things for free to incentivize people to get in also. The next inflection point is 1 million. Once you have some revenue, all you should be doing is figuring out how do you get to 1 million. Once you get to 1 million, the next thing to do is figuring out how to get to 3 million. And once you get to 3 million, then it's off to the races. You're like, all right, we just got to go all in and get to 10 million as fast as possible. Those are the general inflection points that you go through as you're building out a SaaS business. Now, there's certain caveats to this. Like, what do you focus on in each of these, right? What do you focus on when you're just at 0 trying to get to some revenue? What do you focus on when you have some revenue getting to 1 million? I talk to a lot of founders that are at like 1 million. You're at 1 million and you're like, all right, now what? And we focus a lot on building that one growth engine, because that's the thing that's going to get you to 3 million and then 10 million. So let's take these one at a time, right? What do you need to know? What's the one thing you need to know as you're going through all these different inflection points? So the first one, let's just talk about the first inflection point and get it out of the way. If you are just starting out, if you're like, I want to start a SaaS business, it seems so cool. You can see why I'm so fascinated with them and excited about them. My only main thing that I'll tell you is don't quit cold turkey. The reality is I have done over 16 videos on how to navigate that path, on how to quit your job and start a business and develop the right idea and really validate it. So just go to tkkader.com/YouTube. You can go after this training, go over there and just look at the playlist that's called How to Quit Your Job and Start a SaaS Business. You cannot get more literal than that. And I literally walk you through all the things around quitting a job, starting a business while working full-time, going from engineer to entrepreneur, all of those things. And the main thing here is don't just quit your job and say, I'm going to go start a business. You should parallelize the two. That's what I did. Before I quit my job, I was starting to figure out brain trust. I was starting to figure out Tout. I was experimenting. And when I took that leap, it was because there was already revenue coming in on those products. So I was like, okay, there's clearly something here. So my big advice that I give for the very basic inflection point, which is you're going from 0 to some revenue, is don't quit cold turkey. Go and follow that advice. So I wanted to get that out of the way for those of you that are just getting started. Now, you should still watch the rest of this presentation, but the rest of this presentation is going to be more about how do I go from some revenues to one growth engine to 10 million ARR, because that's what we really, really focus on majority of the time. So the first thing is you get to the next inflection point, which is how do you go from something to revenues, right? And my belief is you got to look at two things. Most founders that I talk to tend to over-index on just product. They're product people. I was like this too. I was a product person. That's why brain trust came to be. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But what you need to be doing is to go to some revenues. You need to be thinking constantly about market and product, market and product. Those are the two things you need to constantly be doing. Most people just do product and then say, oh, later on, I'll figure out sales and marketing. But you need to get market and product simultaneously and really hone in on the two. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But really, for this 0 to this some revenue stage, you're really thinking about product market fit. The next stage is once you have some revenues, all you should be thinking about is trying to get to $1 million ARR. $1 million ARR is where you really want to get to, because if you can get to $1 million ARR, a whole bunch of things unlock for you. You can actually start to get more funding. You can take on debt. You can figure out how to recruit better. You can figure out how to actually grow the business through all the money coming in. There's a whole bunch of opportunities that open up and validation that opens up. So you need to get to $1 million as fast as possible. And the big thing you need to be figuring out at that point is how do you build a growth engine? And we'll talk more about that in a minute. And at that point, in order to build this growth engine, you don't just think about market strategy and product strategy, you actually start to think about go-to-market strategy. So in this stage, you're doing anything you can to get some revenues, emailing whoever you can, begging your friends, just to prove that there's some revenue coming in the door and there's something of value here. Once you have that, you got to switch into building a scalable growth engine. The next thing is, once you go from $1 million, what you want to be doing is going to 10 million, but you want to look at 3 million first. And this is where the biggest secret out of this webinar is going to come. The biggest mistake founders make when they hit $1 million is they think they have to spin up 80 more things. In reality, and I know this is counterintuitive, to get to 3 million, whatever got you to $1 million, you actually have to do less of that. You have to double down on what's been working better. You have to coalesce into one growth engine instead of spinning up additional growth ways of growing. So the secret to this is, in order to go from $1 million to 10 million ARR with the $3 million as sort of a one-way point, you need to take all the stuff that's worked for you to get to $1 million. You need to figure out what worked and what didn't and double down on one growth engine. And the growth engine is not just about your sales and marketing. It's about your product also. You need to double down on the core use case. I meet a lot of founders that are stuck at 3 million. And the reason they're stuck at 3 million is because they're selling a different product to every customer. And yeah, they're surviving, but they're not ever going to get to 10 million ARR because they're not doubling down on one use case. They're not doubling down on one aha moment for their product. They're not doubling down on one strategic narrative. They're not doubling down on one growth engine. And that's the biggest thing that founders need to understand as they're navigating these inflection points from 0 to some revenue, to $1 million in revenue, to a 3 million revenue, to 10 million. And one thing you might be asking is like, hey, why 10 million? That seems low, or maybe that seems high if you're just starting out. The reason is, and Jason Lemkin, who's the godfather of SaaS, says this all the time, and I believe it. Once you hit 10 million, you're unstoppable. Once you hit 10 million, you are unstoppable in terms of your SaaS business, because SaaS compounds. When you get to 10 million, you'll be able to find ways to continue to grow it, right? Are you guys getting this? Does this make sense? This is the big thing that I learned. And I actually encountered this with ToutApp as well. You know, ToutApp, I don't want you to think like, oh, Brain Trust was failing and ToutApp just took off and it was perfect. ToutApp required a lot of adjustments also to really get the growth going, because I was making the same mistakes with Tout in the beginning. With ToutApp, I also started to say, oh, we're going to fix email for business users. Anyone that uses email, they do copy and paste. We can solve it for them. But eventually we said, no, we need to get more specific on our ideal customer. We need to get more specific on our core use case. We need to get more specific on our growth engine. We repositioned the product from just business users and copy and paste to salespeople. And as soon as we did that, everything changed. So there's real math to this. And this is part of that growth engine that I'm going to be telling you more about. When you are building your SaaS business, you're trying to build your growth engine, how do you do that? You have to start to make decisions around what your core niche is, right? What's your core initial customer profile? You have to make decisions on what is your core use case. The companies that truly get to $10 million actually double down on one use case in their product. The companies that get to 10 million double down on one core ICP for their product. The companies that get to 10 million actually start to think about how to scale their go-to-market machine by simplifying their message. And that's what we're going to be talking more about. So going back to the ToutApp example, right? This is how the whole thing evolved. Like I'll show this to you one more time. We started really broad. I made the same mistake as Brain Trust, right? I was like, oh, are you tired of rewriting the same emails, right? And then we have this, like, you can send emails, track the emails, template the emails. It was pretty broad. And yeah, people signed up, but it was like, we eventually hit a point where we're like, we don't know how to scale this because it's so many things to so many people. Then we made the switch. We said, we got to coalesce on one growth engine. And so we said, okay, salespeople. For salespeople, we help them be more productive. And then years later, we realized again, like, no, we got to coalesce even more. We're not about sales productivity. What we are about is actually generating pipeline. We are actually about helping the sales team becoming a revenue generating machine. And you can see that messaging even stays consistent today when Marketo Sales Connect says drive more pipeline faster with sales and marketing engagements, right? And so we went from something super wide to a very, very specific use case. What's the one thing to notice here? The more revenue we got and the more growth we got, the simpler our message got, the more honed in we got. And this is the power of it. When you start to focus on one ICP, when you start to focus on one use case, when you start to focus on one growth engine, everything becomes simple. When it's simpler, more salespeople, more marketers, more customers are able to understand your story and they buy more. It's totally counterintuitive. You would normally think, and I made the same mistake also. Once I got to 3 million, we raised $1 million, got to $1 million. We got to 3 million, we raised 3 million. We got to 3 million ARR, we raised with 3 million. And then once we got to 3 million, we raised another 15 million. And once I raised 15 million, I'm like, oh my God, we need to do 80 things. And we did that, and we started failing. Then we had to fix it again. So it's counterintuitive. It's not your fault if you think this way. And so this was the biggest aha I got through these inflection points that I went through. Because I want to make sure you get not just the inflection points in this training, but you also start to understand how do you navigate the inflection points, right? How do you get from revenue to $1 million? How do you get from $1 million to 3 million? How do you get from 3 million to 10 million, right? And the big secret here is you got to think about market, product, and go-to-market as one growth engine. You got to figure out what's working and coalesce it into one growth engine, one ideal customer, one use case, one funnel. That is how you get to 10 million ARR and beyond. Are you guys getting this? So how do you do this, right? I'm going to walk you through 3 secrets on how to do this effectively. 3 secrets to navigating the path to 10 million ARR. So it is part of my SaaS go-to-market program where I help founders actually implement this stuff. We call it an unstoppable sales funnel. We help you build an ideal customer profile. We help you identify macro trends. We help you create a manifesto. But we're not going to go into all those details right now. I just want you to walk away with, here are 3 secrets to navigating the path to 10 million ARR. Are you guys excited about this? Do you want to dig into this? If you want to dig into this, just hit me with a yes in the chat. That way I know you're with me, and then we're going to start going into this. Okay, I'm getting a bunch of yeses. YouTube is doing well too. Okay, cool. Let's go into this. So the 3 secrets that I'm going to be walking you through is, number 1, standard marketing practices do not work. I'm going to explain to you why. The second thing I learned in this ToutApp journey is founders can actually learn to embrace and love sales and marketing. A lot of times I hear a lot of founders that are like, I'm going to build a product and then we'll hire a content person and then they're going to do the thing. Big mistake. And I learned this the hard way. So we were talking about that. And the third one is there's a very specific way to actually rise above competition and make sales and marketing easier for your business. To actually build, like, all of these 3 things will help you build that one growth engine, right? You might be saying like, oh my God, I don't need a growth engine. I don't need sales and marketing. Like, we're already doing all the things we're supposed to with sales and marketing. I'm going to show you how that standard stuff doesn't work. And then you might be saying, you know, I hate sales and marketing. I'm just going to hire someone to do it later. Like, I'll just hire that agency. You cannot outsource marketing. And most SaaS businesses in the early stages cannot afford quality marketers. That's the honest truth. You literally don't have enough budget to hire a quality marketer. So you're going to think you're doing all the stuff, but it's not going to work. You can't just leave it off and hire later. And you can't also outsource it. You got to embrace sales and marketing. And there's a way to do this in a very effective way. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Secret number 1, forget the standard sales and marketing practice. I'm going to explain to you why. Brain Trust taught me a valuable lesson. All right. Brain Trust, I worked on it for a year and a half. And what I would do is I would build some features and I would have a shiny marketing page like I do here. I would tweet it out. I would blog. And like nothing would work. People wouldn't activate. People wouldn't convert to revenue. But and what I kept doing was I just kept building one more feature. I kept feeling I was that one feature. I was like, oh, if I just add this file sharing capability and a like button in this thing, then everyone's gonna love it. And then, oh my God, it's gonna go boom. And the truth is, you're never one feature away. In fact, again, if you follow the one growth engine model, you're really supposed to be getting rid of features and focusing on one use case. That's what'll get you to 10 million. So I kept feeling, with Brain Trust, I kept feeling I was just like one feature away. And I learned very quickly that that's not how it works. And I also learned that you're not just one, you can't just be one feature. You have to start with actually marketing and selling your product early on. You can't just turn on marketing because it didn't work for Brain Trust, right? So I dug into why. Like I conceptually understood this and I adapted it with ToutApp clearly. But I was like, well, why? Like, because when I started coaching founders, SaaS founders, I saw them doing this too. I'd literally be on calls and they'd be like, oh, we just need to build these 5 features and our growth is going to go. And we have a content person that's blogging. And I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. So I decided to go look at some data. And I looked at some data, and this is out of a study, and you can Google it. It's out of PitchBook and Wing VC, and I believe it was on the ToutApp blog where a CFO published this. Only 4% of startups graduate from the seed stage. So let me explain what this graph shows. Back in 2010, about 8 to 10%, roughly, that's about 9% of startups that raised the seed round actually went on to raise a Series A, right? That line has actually dropped to less than 4% now. It's actually less than 4%. So you can raise a seed round, but not go on to raise a Series A after the seed. If you're bootstrapped, you might say like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. I don't need to raise. Just consider this stat a signal of the mortality rate of startups in general, because it's a pretty good sample size. The other thing to think about is it used to be that only 2% of startups that did raise a Series A actually had revenues. However, today, 70% of startups getting funded are actually generating revenues, right? So what that means is the bar is higher than ever. But also, we all kind of know that 99.9% of startups fail. We're the type of people that want to be part of that 0.01%, right? But what really got me going with this stat was like, wow, 4%, that's a significant number. What is it about that 4% of startups that are actually graduating from the seed stage? And so I asked myself, where do founders go wrong? Where did I go wrong? Like before ToutApp, Brain Trust didn't work. Before Brain Trust, Recommend didn't work. I had other ideas that didn't work. What was it about Tout that really got it going? And one thing you'll notice, if you look at the Brain Trust page, it looked really slick, right? If you look at the Tout thing, it looks janky. It's like super janky, but it still made way more money, right? If you actually go to any of my Unstoppable landing pages, like we have a startup strategy guide, right? You go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. It is an ugly black and white page with a form, but it has a 75% conversion rate. So what I realize is where founders go wrong is they actually go on to get the cool name. They're like, I'm going to start a company. We're going to call it awesome.io. Boom. They get the logo. They get the slick website. They blog. They have a blog. They like share their thoughts. They do the social profiles. Maybe they run some ads. Maybe they have an MVP or a full product. Maybe they do some SEO. Maybe they do a press release about this amazing money that they raised. And they said they raised $3 million. You can do all of these things and still end up being the 96% of startups with not enough traction, no clear product market fit, no insights, and in the dead zone, which is insane to me. So the question is like, what the hell are they doing wrong? Like they're doing all the right things. They're doing all the right things. Cool name, logo, sick website, blogs, social profiles, ads. What's up with them? Maybe they're hiring marketers too. Like what is going wrong? Why? The truth is the people you're talking to don't care. Like the marketing you probably did, and this was the case for me with Brain Trust, and I see it countless times. You're so wide, you're so scattered, and you're spread so thin in your marketing and sales efforts that you're neither here nor there. But why? Like why don't they care? You're probably not differentiated enough. It's not easy enough for them to understand what you're doing. They don't really understand what you do in the first place, so they hit the back button. You're positioning it the wrong way. They just don't trust you. They don't know who awesome.io is, even though you think it's awesome.io. And it's just not important enough. They're like, well, you're solving a problem, but I don't really care. Or you're just, the little marketing that you're doing or the sales that you're doing is just pointed to the wrong direction. And worst of all, you might say, well, TK, that doesn't matter. I'm still at this ARR. I'm like, yes, but you will never be able to scale this. And at this point, you have to figure out how to scale it. Being a startup founder is really hard because you got to do these two dichotomies. You got to do unscalable things and then figure out how to scale them. A lot of people over-index on trying to build scalable things, so they never get anything. Other people get so focused on the hustle and the unscalable things, they never figure out how to do the scaling piece. And if you can't figure out both, if you can't zoom in and out, it never works. And so for these people, they just did all the things, but it didn't matter because they weren't the essential things. And there's a lot of free startup advice on the internet, so it's very easy to get overwhelmed. I made the same mistakes, right? I over-indexed on product and kept thinking I was that one feature away from product market fit. I failed to embrace sales and marketing and thought if the product was good enough, the market will speak for itself. I was like, man, the product's gotta be good, then everything else will be fine. It wasn't true. And also this is the worst piece of advice that's given. I interviewed people like I was told to, but it didn't matter because unless they were swiping the credit card, I would never know if they're telling the truth. I would spend months building stuff. And they were like, oh yeah, that would be really cool. And maybe you can add this too. And maybe you can add AI. I'm like, oh my God, cool. If I do this, then it's going to go boom. And it didn't go anywhere because they don't want to lie. They don't want to be mean. They don't want to tell me the truth because it's uncomfortable. So the only way for me to learn the truth was to build a sales and marketing machine early and figure out if they're willing to pay. If they're not willing to pay, then it wouldn't matter. This is why in the course of that weekend, all these things played in my head. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to charge up front. My original inclination was to charge $9 a month. Instead, I charged $30 a month for this janky product. And people still swiped. And I was like, man, if they're paying $30 a month for this, for sending an email, and you can't even bold the text, there's clearly something here. And I promoted it. I promoted it right from the beginning. And that made a whole difference in figuring out whether I could get to product market fit with this product versus building something and being one feature away with brain trust. So what's the one thing that you can learn from this 96% failure trend? To increase my chances of hitting scale, you need to build one growth engine. That's what I learned. I needed to embrace sales and marketing early. I needed to embrace building a growth engine early. I needed to make sure that I wasn't trying to do all the marketing and sales activities. I was trying to look at the three things together: product, market, and go-to-market together. And that's what I mean by growth engine. Are you guys getting this? So if you're with me, just hit me with a yes. So I know you're with me, and let's keep moving. So that's that first stage. That first stage, to go from the zero to some money, you got to get the market strategy down early. You got to start spinning up a little bit of go-to-market instead of just over-indexing on product. That's what I learned. And you got to start charging early because that's the only way you'll know you have something of value. So then you have some revenues, right? You've got some revenues. Maybe you begged, borrowed, and stealed and got a bunch of people to sign up, and hopefully they renew or hopefully they continue to use the product, and you're checking your activation metrics. You've got revenues. Congratulations. Awesome. Most people don't even get here. What is the next thing you need to do to actually start to get to that next inflection point? Because if you've got some revenues, your thing is, I got to get to 1 million, right? Your first job is, how do I make some money? Once you make some money, you're like, how do I make 1 million, right? Now, if in the early days, you're really focused on product and market being like, who's my specific customer, product being, what is the actual result and how do I get into my aha moment, right? And by the way, this is true all the way to 10, right? People want to add more complexity to their product, but the less complexity you have, the faster you're going to grow. Just look at any product in the business that has scaled. What you want to add in this part is you want to start building your go-to-market machine. You want to build your growth engine. But what you want to learn from is the fact that all those other startups, the 96% failure rate, you want to look at those people. You want to understand that you don't want to just go about checking the boxes on the fact that, we have a blog. Oh, I hired this content person. Oh, we did this. Oh, maybe we'll run some ads. You can check all the boxes and still fail. You need to actually focus on your one funnel, your one growth engine that you can build that actually covers the key essentials. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Once you go from the sum revenues to $1 million, your growth engine, as you're building your growth engine, you'll likely actually start to focus on, you'll likely experiment with different channels. Here's the secret. Are you ready for the secret of going from $1 million to 10 million ARR? As you're going from $1 million to 10 million ARR, and I just ran a growth summit earlier this week. It feels like it was forever ago. It was earlier this week, where we really taught people how to understand. It was all founders that were at least $1 million ARR. It were some of my clients that are in the earlier stages, but primarily founders that are at least $1 million ARR trying to get to 10. And what we taught them to do was understand what's working and what's not in your growth engine. The inflection point that you go through once you hit $1 million, once you have that built growth engine, is you figure out what you need to double down on, not spin up more. What you want to be doing is like, well, we tried these 10 things. What's the one thing driving the most results? What's the one feature driving the most results? What's the one channel driving the most results? Let's double down on that. With the ToutApp story, we went from 0 to revenue within the first 3 days because I embraced sales and marketing early, because I had already built an audience with people that might use it, because I was already trying to build it out for brain trust. I also put a paywall. So I asked for revenue. And I was like, if no one pays, I'm not going to put any money or time into this. And so we got to revenue really fast. From here to here, I tried a bunch of stuff. I tried blogging, I tried ads, I tried cold emailing people, I tried integrations, and eventually we found that integrations and marketplaces was the thing that would work. So we just drove that to $1 million. Once we got to $1 million, we said, well, what is the thing that's working right now? Like, what is the thing that's going to take us to 3 million? And we looked at all the data and all the channels, and we decided to double down on what worked best for us. Are you guys getting this? So the first secret is to really, really make sure that you are driving product market fit and you're really not over indexing on product, and you are evenly indexing between sales and marketing, right? You don't want to just over index on product. You want to start a market strategy and a go-to-market strategy as early as possible. You want to start building a growth engine as early as possible. So suppose you're at 3 million ARR, right? You're at 3 million ARR, and which means, like, first of all, congrats. That's awesome. Most people don't even get here. How do you get to 10, right? This is all about one growth engine. This is where most companies go to die. And I've made similar mistakes at ToutApp. What you think you have to do is add 50 more things. What you think you have to do is go after 50 more market segments. What you think you have to do is actually add 50 more features, and you need to make your messaging more complicated so you can charge more. The reality is, what you really need to do is look at your market strategy, your product strategy, and go-to-market strategy. We teach you how to do this inside of our program, and we teach you how to actually focus in on what's working and cut the rest. The key to go from 3 to 10 million ARR is to actually simplify. Simplify your messaging. Simplify your use case. Simplify, simplify, simplify. And when you're able to do that, you're able to scale faster. What you want to be doing is actually cloning your best customers instead of trying to go after all new types of new customers. How do you do that? How do you actually embrace sales and marketing and go to market early, right? Like, that's the thing that you're probably also wondering, like, all right, TK, like, I'm probably at this stage or at this stage, and I'm doing sales and marketing. How do I do this, and how do I embrace this early? A lot of founders that I work with tend to have a love-hate relationship with sales and marketing. They're perfectly comfortable building product, but when it comes to sales and marketing, they're just not sure how to do it effectively. They may not like it. They may see sales and marketing as beneath them. They would prefer that there's an API for customers and they just pay, right? You want, like, just a self-serve. The reality is, regardless of what type of SaaS business you have, regardless of what type of segment you're going after, you're either going to have to do sales or marketing or both. That's the truth. So you might as well start early. So this is the second secret I learned, right? If the first secret was, most standard marketing practices don't really apply, and you got to just, like, focus on the essentials and you got to embrace it early. I also learned that you need to embrace sales and marketing. So on the left is what I call baby TK. Baby TK is 2010. You can see that he's miserable. He's got a giant drink in front of him, and he's an engineer at a hedge fund, and he shipped code. Between 2010 and 2020, in the transformation that I went through, because every single quarter was a new quarter for the business, to take ToutApp through that growth curve and to an exit, I had to learn not only how to ship code, but I also had to learn how to close deals. Now, if there's ever an engineer that worked at ToutApp, they hated my code, they didn't like my code, but guess what? it got them to a point where I could hire engineers. So I feel pretty good about my coding abilities. But what's more important was I had to learn how to not just ship code, but also learn how to close deals. I'll give you the secret on how I embraced it. But before I do that, let me highlight why this is so important. I found this other study, it's by CB Insights, and they analyzed 101 startup postmortems. I had shared this in our growth workshop earlier this week. And if you look at the percentage of these postmortems and the biggest reasons why they failed, look at what keeps coming up. What keeps coming up consistently over and over and over and over is sales and marketing. Sales and marketing is the biggest killer of startups failing, right? No market need. The market was like, I don't understand this. I don't need this. I don't know why you're building this. No, it's possible it was just a bad idea and the market was never going to approve it. But the founders, and I truly believe there's the only difference between startups that fail and the startups that get somewhere are founders that are willing to keep pivoting to adapt their technology to a market that really needs it. There's no such thing as a market that, like, there's no such technology that no market will ever need it. There's always a way to pivot it or repurpose it. In fact, some of the best companies were built by pivoting, right? And you can look at ToutApp as a pivot as well. And so the reason you got to start to embrace sales and marketing almost holistically, this is what I mean by one big growth engine. If you don't start to embrace sales and marketing early, you will not get through those inflection points. If you don't look at sales and marketing, market and product and go-to-market together as one integrated growth engine, you will not be able to navigate these inflection points. And the further along the inflection points that you go, the more important it becomes to actually embrace sales and marketing and a true growth engine. So what that means is if you're anywhere in these zones, you have to develop and embrace your ability to sell and market your product. And the earlier you do it, the earlier you ask for money, the more validated customer signals you're going to get on what you're building is worth it or not. Otherwise, you'll end up building a product. You'll keep convincing yourself that you're one feature away from going boom, and you will not get enough true signals to really pivot into being the product and the market and the fit that you actually need. And worst of all, a lot of companies actually get stuck right over here. They can sell and they can do some deals, but they cannot accelerate fast enough because their messaging is too complicated. No one really understands what they do. The use cases are all over the place. They're selling a different product to each person. And that's what stops you. And that's also a growth engine problem, right? Focusing on one product strategy, one market strategy, one go-to-market. That's what becomes super important in this scenario. I'll give you a third secret. The third secret that I learned as I was navigating this was to actually start to think about your strategic narrative. How do you, and I showed you this example with ToutApp. Our strategic narrative became easier and simpler to explain the more money we made. The more money we made, the more signals we had, the more customers we had. It became pretty evident, like, look, at the end of the day, all people want to use ToutApp for is to send emails so they can generate pipeline. And if we can do that effectively, then we're great. If we can't do that, then we're in trouble. We do one thing, we send emails, and based on those emails, it creates pipeline. That is what we do. And as soon as we got that strategic narrative right, everything became easier. Renewals became easier. Success became easier. Prioritizing engineering features became easier. Doing fundraising became easier. All of those things became easier because it just became so much easier to explain the value prop. Now, was that hard? It was super hard. It was super hard because we had to say no to a bunch of other features. There are other features that are like, oh my God, this is so great. This really helps salespeople, but they didn't care. So we're like, we can't do this anymore. We got to cut the things that don't matter anymore. How do we do that? I'm a big believer in creating, in teaching. I don't look at sales. I learned to embrace sales and marketing in my journey. The way I learned to embrace sales and marketing is I embraced teaching. If I can teach people the aha moment that I went through when I was building ToutApp, the customers, our most successful customers, the aha moment that they went through, the one use case that they went through, then it became easier to educate the market and really get it out there. So I started to think, all right, we can't outspend the competition. We have plenty of competition. We're going to out-teach. So we consistently released what we call the manifesto. And this is our second manifesto, the definitive guide to building an SDR team, sales development team. Our earlier manifesto was how to write kick-ass sales emails. We wrote that manifesto and it codified exactly why people needed our product. And by doing that in a very specific way, we learned how to get our strategic narrative down. And because we got a strategic narrative down, it became a lot easier to prioritize the right features. It became a lot easier to sell new customers. It became a lot easier to train new reps. And most importantly, it became a lot easier to generate demand. So if there's a third thing you want to do as you're navigating this path, it's to make sure that you embrace teaching your customers. Look, at the end of the day, if you're a founder and you started a company, essentially here's what happened. You woke up one morning, you spent 10,000 hours experiencing a problem, and you came up with an aha moment. You're like, oh my God, if we do this way, we can solve this problem. And that's how you created your software. You reached that aha moment, but in every sales conversation, in every touch point, in every marketing message, you're having to get other people to quickly reach that aha moment like that, even though it might have taken you a while to get there. When you create a strategic narrative, when you create a manifesto, and you start to use that as the front of every single customer conversation, lead conversation, marketing, then you can actually get people to that aha moment a lot more effectively. Like you're in the middle of a manifesto right now, right? I took a company and I scaled it to millions of ARR, and I had a bunch of aha moments. And the biggest aha moment I had was you need to actually embrace sales and marketing, and you need to actually simplify and coalesce into one growth engine the closer you get to 10 million ARR. And the more you do that, the quicker you grow. That was my aha moment. And here I am walking you through my manifesto on why I reached that aha moment through examples. Are you guys getting this? So ultimately, at the end of the day, as a startup founder, you really have these two levers. You're either shipping code or closing deals, right? Most founders over-index on shipping code and don't do enough on closing deals. If you embrace both, you think of the product strategy and simplify to one use case, you think about your market strategy and focus on one ICP, and you focus on your go-to-market strategy and focus on one funnel, what you end up with is with one growth engine. And the earlier you start building that growth engine, the stronger it is, the quicker you can grow, because it'll help you make strategic choices to actually focus in on where the heat is in the market. At the end of the day, you're shipping code and closing deals. Why? You're a heat-seeking missile. You're trying to find where in the market is the sweet spot where lots of people will get it. And once you get enough of that, you want to just replicate that as fast as possible. Where founders go wrong is they think that the higher, as they go into the later inflection points, they need to be doing more. The reality is you need to be doing less so that it's more scalable and repeatable and you can go faster. You guys getting this? And lastly, the best way to do this, even if you're not into sales and marketing, is to teach. Get out there and teach people your aha moment. And if you do that in an effective way, everything starts to come together. Now, we obviously teach this. I call it an unstoppable sales funnel. You know, with secret number one, when I was like, man, like there's so many different marketing activities. You can do all these things and still fail. I figured out that there's some essentials that matter. What matters is you need to actually hone in on your ideal customer profile. What matters is you need to hone in on why your people, your most ravaged customers, are buying your thing. What are the macro trends that's powering them? And you need to codify that into a manifesto. And every week, you need to share that manifesto and get people to download it, have them come on a call with you or a webinar so that you can ship code and close deals. That's how we teach people to do this. So those are the things that I wanted to cover today. One of the things, so let's just quickly see if are there any questions. Let me just revamp the 3 secrets over here first, and then I have a couple of things I'll cover to close this off. So if we were to like zoom out, the big thing you want to take away is as you're navigating the inflection points and the path to 10 million ARR, you want to go from 0 to product market fit, which is some revenue. That's what matters. Some revenue to $1 million, $1 million to $3 million, $3 million to $10 million. To navigate these, you need to keep coalescing into one growth engine, one ICP, one use case, one funnel. You do that, the faster you do that, the more you're going to grow. How do you do that? Number one, don't try to check off all the boxes on marketing practices. Focus on one unstoppable sales funnel. Number two, embrace sales and marketing. You cannot outsource it. Most of the marketers you hire at your budget are not going to be the best marketers either. You need to get good at this. You need to embrace this. And number three, you need to rise above the competition and focus on teaching. You focus on teaching, you get your manifesto in. What that allows you to do is actually embrace sales and marketing. When you embrace sales and marketing, what that allows you to do is actually focus on that one growth engine. It all starts by starting early, starting a growth engine early. All right, so that's what I wanted to cover in terms of the inflection points. Are there any questions? Any questions that I can answer for you guys? Okay, cool. So I'm not getting any questions. Actually, let me check YouTube also. And I know I keep, good, getting a bunch of yeses. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. Like, I gave you my training. I wanted to give you like, here are my thoughts on how to grow a SaaS business, go through the inflection points. I have some slides that I can walk you through that tells you more about our SaaS go-to-market program. It's an actual coaching program that helps startup founders like you navigate the path from 0 to 10 million ARR. Do you guys want me to cover that as well? Like, do you want me to like kind of walk you through how we help startup founders actually implement this, how to get to one growth engine? Let me just get a yes from you guys if that's of interest to you guys. Let me open up all the chat windows because I've got multiple over here. But because like I already know this stuff, I don't want to recap it. If you guys know already, like I want to make sure this is valuable for you, and I can also answer any questions. So who wants to know more about how an unstoppable sales funnel works and how this whole thing works on if you want to work with me? Say yes in the chat. Okay, cool. I'm getting a bunch of yeses on the webinar. Okay, awesome. Hey, you guys are great. All right, cool. I think my YouTube is a little lagged, but we're getting enough yeses in the webinar, so we're going to keep moving forward. So the question becomes like, look, if you want to build that one growth engine, which I call an unstoppable sales funnel, what would it take for you to do it, right? None of this is theory, right? Until now, I've only shared this stuff with my one-on-one clients. Then I started my go-to-market program. So I've started bringing with more startup founders that are on the program. And I've tested this entire system myself. It's a go-to-market machine that can actually help you get not just the 3 million ARR, but to 10. So if you're kind of like, all right, I want to do this. I want to coalesce into one ICP, one use case. I want to coalesce into one growth engine, one funnel. You have two very clear options. Because I know that there's no shortage of free advice that's out there on the internet. But I do know there are a lot of founders that want a faster path. They want a framework to follow. So option one is you can go do it yourself. Option two is you can work with us for a proven path to success. Those are the two options. So there are some benefits to working together. If we work with you, then nothing is held back. We're going to walk you through it step by step. We're going to give you the right training. We're going to give you the right blueprints to actually help you analyze your business and build out one go-to-market machine, one growth engine to actually scale to 10 million ARR. And that's what my SaaS Startup School does. There's a couple of reasons why I created the SaaS School. All right. So first of all, there's lots of resources for you as founders, but I still decided to create it for some specific reasons. First, there's accelerators, like you can join an accelerator. But the problem is, and accelerators are great and I love them, but their model is here's 24 mentors that you could go talk to. And those mentors aren't really paid. So it's like a weird arrangement and they're doing this. So it's a certain group of people that are mentoring and they're all going to give you different advice. And now you have to go to a corner and figure out like, well, what do I do? Because I'm more confused now than I started. There are a lot of gurus out there also. There are actual gurus. They're like, oh, I'm going to help you build a SaaS business, but they've never built a SaaS business themselves. And I'm like, that's not helpful. I mean, come on. Like you were at Uber for 6 months, but that doesn't make you qualified to do this. There are courses out there and you can go buy a course to build a startup and you can go sit there and watch the videos, but then you don't get to have the interaction with the creator. So that's not helpful either. And lastly, a startup marketing course is not helpful because you don't know how to get to that. You need to look at it holistically. It's not just about marketing. It's product, market, and go-to-market, all three together. So it's too siloed. And also a course on just how to scale your business. Like there are lots of business scaling courses, but they don't understand SaaS. SaaS businesses are different. There's a specific way to grow these things. And so I wish this existed for me when I was a founder. And that's why I put together the best possible launch pad for a successful SaaS business. And that's my SaaS go-to-market program. And the program is designed for people that have revenues and want to scale to 10 million ARR. That's who it's focused for. If you are pre-revenue, pre-product, we actually have a separate SaaS School program. You can go to tkkader.com/SaaS-school, which is super easy to get into. You can just sign up. You don't have to apply like you do with the go-to-market program. You can start. But if you're in some form of revenue, remember the inflection points. You want to get to 1 million, then 3 million, then 10. We want to help guide you through that. And that's what this go-to-market program is for. There's 3 parts to the program. First, we help you clarify your market strategy. So that's your ICP, your macro trends. We teach you and we give you the templates to exactly clarify your market strategy. The second, we help you develop your strategic narrative. How do you narrow down to one ICP, one use case, one funnel? Like, how do you actually codify that? How do you create that manifesto? We teach you how to do that. The third thing is we help you run your sales funnel. So like I said before, we tend to get overwhelmed with 50 different possibilities around all the marketing activities that you can be doing. You end up being neither here nor there. What we teach you to do is how to run one Broadway show. So you can take your manifesto and keep promoting it to a new group of people every week and keep spreading that same message. And that's what gets the momentum going. So those 3 things are what we teach in the program. You get everything you need. You get the training, you get the blueprint, you get the coaching and accountability, and you get access to me. So you get the sales funnel course, the sales funnel blueprint, the strategy course, you get the full training library, you get into my mastermind of other SaaS founders. My mastermind is only SaaS founders. That's it. And it's a very specific group. I run a Wednesday group coaching call, so you can join and we can we can connect with each other, and you can hear from others that are facing problems and see how we solve them. And I do the same for you. And you get 4 one-on-one strategy calls with me. So once you built out your version 1 of your strategy and your growth engine, we get on these calls and we look at it together, and I actually give you real feedback. Generally speaking, people use this part for building out their growth engine, and the rest of it they use for fundraising strategy. We help you with both. And we are on year 1 of the program, but we have specific awards to guide you through the inflection points. So they're different clubs. So the first club is we try to get you into, we work together to get you into the 1 million ARR club. That's a play on words. I chuckle every time. Half of you get the joke, half of you don't, but I think it's funny. So we get you into the 1 million ARR club. The second one is we get you into the unstoppable club. That's the 3 million. And then once you hit 10 million, we say, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with you. Then we get you into the unstoppable X club. Once you're past 10 million ARR, you're kind of done with the program, but we're with you to make sure you get to the unstoppable X club. And look, the better the fit, the better the results. So this is my legacy business. This is not my build to flip or venture scale. This is my business I'm going to be doing for a very long time, because I'm happiest when I'm in a room with SaaS founders, and I love building SaaS businesses. So I don't want just any client. I want the right clients. So who wants in? How many of you are like, you know what? I've got revenues. I actually want to scale my business. If you're one of the people like, you know what? I want in on this. I want to actually explore this. I want to figure out how to build one growth engine. Hit me with a yes in the chat. That way I know you're with me. Now, if this sounds like you're invited to apply to see if you qualify, right? This is not for everybody. It's for the right group of people. The call is approximately 30 minutes. The call is not about me giving you free advice. The call is for you and I to have an honest discussion about where you are in the business and to see if we can help you grow. And I can tell you more about the program, right? And look, there are a couple of breakthroughs we do in the program. The first one, we get you out of your inventor mindset and focus on proven best practices. So if all this did was help you to just identify what's working in your business so you can get 1 extra deal or 2 extra deals and start to get that growth going more, because we force you and hold you accountable to make choices and get out of that inventor mindset, would it be worth it, right? So if you're interested in joining the program, you want to apply to join, go to tkkader.com/apply. Now, there are a lot of people on this webinar. I can't tell from here how many people are on the YouTube. I only get a certain number of calls a day, and I have cleared my schedule to make sure there are call slots available. And you actually get on a call with me. It's not some crazy sales team or something. I qualify all the founders that get into the program. So if this is you and you want to get to 10 million ARR with one growth engine, go to tkkader.com/apply, and we'd love to have you on the program. And look, 96% of startups fail to graduate from the seed stage. And forget the pre-seed stage. I don't even know what the mortality rate for that is. what will it cost you if you don't arm yourself with as much help as possible? And that's why I created this program. I created this program because I wish this existed when I was scaling my SaaS business. And we cover everything from how to actually get your product strategy right, market strategy, and go-to-market strategy, and actually run that one growth engine. So, and lastly, I'll say this. I would not be where I am today if it weren't for the people and investing in people that helped me get there faster. Whether it was mentors, coaches, I'm a big believer in coaching because it allowed me to unlock success a lot faster. And that's what we do in this program. So if you're interested, go to tkkader.com/apply. At the end of the day, I'll leave you with this. Building a SaaS business has been one of the most incredibly rewarding things in my life. However, it is not for the faint of heart. You kind of have to decide what kind of person. Like for me, it forced me to learn faster. It forced me to become a better human. It forced me to get confidence, to get up on stage. It forced me to make tough choices. You had to show up and you had to actually upgrade yourself every quarter, because every quarter the business was different and it required a different CEO. And that's what I needed to do. And ultimately it comes down to the tale of two people. Are you going to be the person that says, no, I'm going to go get it. I want to get to 10 million ARR. Here's what I want. And I want to get as much help as possible to get me there. I want a framework to follow. That's who this is for. So I'm going to wrap over here. Unless there are any questions, join the SaaS go-to-market program and I can help you scale your SaaS business to the next stage of growth. Go to tkkader.com/apply. And that's it. That's all I have for you today. Those are the 5 inflection points for every SaaS business. And remember, the biggest things that you need to be doing is to coalesce into one growth engine for your SaaS business. I want to thank you guys for joining. This was a lot of fun. We're over time. Oh, I'm seeing the chat, YouTube chat now. A bunch of you guys said yes. Awesome. So just go to tkkader.com/apply. And in there, you will actually see some more details around the program. I covered most of this stuff already. You just hit the apply button and you'll see times available. I did clear out some time on Saturday and Sunday so that you guys can chat as well. I look forward to seeing you on the call. All right, everybody, you guys were awesome. I'm late for another webinar that I'm a guest at right now. I appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Thank you for joining. And I will see you on the next webinar or video or episode. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, please smash that like button. It means the world to us and our team. Also, I drop an episode every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday to help you scale your SaaS business. So be sure to subscribe button and that bell icon so you get notified. And lastly, remember, everybody needs a strategy for their life and their business. And when you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable.